So my name is Greg Lais, and I'm the Director of Wilderness Inquiry. Some of you have heard a little bit about Wilderness Inquiry. Mayor Coleman referred to it. We're based here in the Twin Cities, and we've been around for 37 years. We're friends with many of you. I could go on and on here for quite a while, naming our friends and partners who we love dearly. But I'd rather devote my time to three specific points, which I'll get to in a minute. So Wilderness Inquiry's mission is really about connecting new people to the outdoors. And we've been doing that for 37 years, and starting with people who have disabilities, but really working with people of all ages, backgrounds, and abilities. And you heard several people refer to this Urban Wilderness Canoe Adventures program, which we started a number of years ago in partnership with the National Park Service and the City of St. Paul and many great partners here, REI, Michaela, to get 10,000 kids on the river. So that program has really taken off and grown, and I just want to tell you that we're thinking about renaming it, because we're always changing things. You have a brochure on your table called the Canoe Mobile. So in 2010, how many of you remember this thing called America's Great Outdoors? It was, okay, you all remember that? So we decided to take the UWCA to Washington, D.C., kind of on a demonstration project, and we worked with that woman sitting over there. Autumn, would you stand up? Come on, Autumn Saxton Ross, to help us bring it to the Anacostia River, and it was wildly successful. We got 1,000 kids paddling the Anacostia, and from there was born this entity we're calling the Canoe Mobile. So I will come back to that in a minute. What we want to do is help bring the Canoe Mobile to your cities, to Pittsburgh. We're in San Francisco, to Grand Rapids, Michigan. So that's one of my agendas. But my real agenda here, I've got multiple agendas. I would give a shout out here. That's Chad Dayton back there. Chad, would you just raise your hand? He's the driver of Canoe Mobile, and you'll see him around today. My real agenda here is actually to help all of you do what I think you need to do, which is to engage your mayors. And how do you really engage your mayors? So you saw how lucky we are here in St. Paul to have Chris Coleman as our mayor, and it has been truly a gift. He's a great guy. It's genuine. He's not doing this for political points. He's doing it because he believes in it. When we were in Salt Lake City, Ralph Becker, another guy who I put in that same genre exactly, we asked him, how does this fit in the city's political agenda? And he kind of said, it doesn't. And he said, well, you know what mayors do? We catch dogs, we fill potholes. You heard Mayor Coleman talk about, parking meters. The poor guy, think about sitting there for 2.5 hours. Mike, were you there with him? Maybe you didn't have to go. Sure. So, the thing I would ask you is how do you get your mayors involved? Because mayors are key to igniting your communities. And I talk about igniting your communities because that's what you need to do to get people engaged. So I have three strategic things I want to talk about that hopefully can help you do this. So these slides, by the way, are just pictures of the Canoe Mobile in action in different cities. You can look at them. I'm not going to pay attention to them, though. So the first thing that you can do is, I would say, have a BHAG. Okay? Do all of you know what a BHAG is? Some of you do. Phil, you know what one is? Do you mind saying what it is?
Big, hairy, audacious goal.
Absolutely. Way to go. Have a big, hairy, audacious goal. That's a term from a guy named Jim Collins, who's a business writer, and he wrote a book called Good to Great, which actually I think is apropos here. One of his lines he says is, good is the enemy of great. You can ponder that one on your break. But I think it's really important to say, we're going to do something big here. If we had said in this UWCA thing that, hey, we're going to do a program to get 100 kids on the river, that wouldn't have inspired that many people. And we picked 10,000, kind of out of the air. Minnesota's the land of 10,000 lakes, that's kind of where it came from. But we set a big goal, and it was that big goal that kind of took our breath away, and I think helped to get the community engaged, and it was no small thing. There's a quote from a city planner from Chicago, a guy named Daniel Burnham, who says, think no small thoughts, for they have not the power to inspire men's souls. Forgive the sexist thing there, he was in the 19th century. But the idea here is to really have a big goal and set a big goal That's what gets a mayor's attention. That's what gets a community's attention. So as you're putting together your plans, I really want to encourage you to do that. The second thing, and Jenna, you kind of talked about this a little bit, was invite non-traditional players, if you will, to the table. Get them in your boat, if I can use that metaphor, and figure out how to make their agenda something that you can work on with your agenda. Okay, how can we help solve their problems with our agenda of connecting kids to nature? I want to give you two examples. When we first started doing this, the only way really feasible to connect 10,000 kids to the Mississippi River was to work with the public school districts. So we needed to approach St. Paul and Minneapolis public schools. Mayor Coleman, by the way, arranged a meeting with us with the superintendent of St. Paul Public Schools. Great use of a mayor. And as we got into this, the school districts, connecting kids to the outdoors, okay, not a bad thing, but why? It has to facilitate learning. And what we discovered as we started doing it was that we were addressing one of their key issues of the day, which is the achievement gap, which, as you know, the academic achievement gap between students of color and students who are white. And in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis happens to have the highest achievement gap in the United States. So, it's a big issue here. They call it the opportunity gap. They talk about summer learning loss and how kids over summertime, if they're not in enriched environments, tend to go down. But nonetheless, we hitched our wagon to that train, and that key educational piece is a part of the Canoe Mobile that we take to every city, that we're helping kids in their learning process. It's not just environmental education. It can be history, physics, it can be all kinds of different lessons. So how does our agenda help solve that agenda? Second example, we started working with a group called Kajug, which is a Somali youth organization. The Twin Cities, there's some kids from Kajug out at Yellowstone, by the way. The Twin Cities happens to have one of the largest Somali populations in the country. And Kajug is, I would say, on the forefront. You may have heard about this connection, this bizarre, connection between terrorism here and recruiting Somali kids from Minnesota to go fight in the Middle East. A terrible thing. So we approached Kajug and said, hey, we want to take some of your kids to Yellowstone. And they said, okay, all right. But what they've done now is embraced this connection to public lands, embraced this connection to the things that make the United States great as a key part of their strategy for keeping kids engaged here, and as CBS News puts it, keeping them out of the reach of terrorism. Now, we never in a million years thought of that as an agenda item when we were wanting to take these kids down the Mississippi River, but it worked. So those are just two examples, I would say, of how we can make this agenda someone else's agenda. The last thing that I want to say here is, to kind of wrap this up, and Rich referred to this last night, Sarah spoke about it a little bit earlier today, Mayor Coleman referred to it, and that is, kind of framing this issue, I think, as a social justice issue. And we talk about, getting new environmental stewards, okay? We talk about keeping ourselves relevant, whoever we are, okay? But really, I think that what we have to develop in order to get our community's attention is this notion of social justice. And the line that I take, the lens that I take, my Rich, that I look through is kind of the public lands lens. To you, Paige. Paige Coles, it's great that you're here, the chair of the Trust for Public Lands. Thrilled to have you here. So if you all saw the Ken Burns thing, Mayor Coleman referred to that, America's Best Idea. There's some interesting things as to how that term came about. But I want to generalize America's Best Idea from national parks to public lands in general. And if public lands are indeed our best idea, then it follows in my logic that that is something that all children are entitled to. And that really is a social justice issue, and how do we connect them? I want to end with one quick story, if that's all right. Because I think these things evolve in our minds Because when I started doing this, I wasn't thinking of this as a social justice issue per se, I can tell you that. So for me, it's when we took the Canoe Mobile to the Bronx and we went to a place called Roberto Clemente State Park, which is state park on the Harlem River. I would just tell you that, nature was hard to find there. It was ringed by these big tenements, and the community wasn't exactly receptive to us. Wilderness Inquiry, our acronym is WI, and the community said, what are all these white people from Wisconsin coming to take us canoeing? Chad actually went into the tenements and really got the community on board. And seeing these kids come out of those tenements with their families, watching them stream, go through the concrete, over the fence, down the barricade, out to this dock that we had arranged, and seeing 2,000 kids leap for joy because they had the opportunity to get on the Harlem River, that's when it dawned on me that this is really about social justice, about access. And I think that the reason why that is relevant for all of us is that elevates this game. That's something that mayors and communities will think of and pay attention to. So, what are they? Have a BHAG, right? Invite many players to the table and have our agenda become their agenda, and let's phrase it as a social justice issue. Thank you very much.